Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project. Are you ready?
Okay, Soul Sister, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It needs to happen on a more regular basis.
I'm sure it will.
What is... You busting the joint up already? I can't tell you how many guests have come in here and knocked that over. I can't tell you. I mean, I don't think...
It's loose.
Yeah.
It's okay, though.
I know. We're 6 years in now. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah.
How many shows now?
Oh, 378 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's quite the accomplishment.
Oh, thank you. I don't, yeah. Oh, it's something.
It is.
I don't know if it's accomplishment or not, but it's something. Yeah, it's something. We're having fun.
Good.
I want to talk to you about truth.
My truth or your truth?
That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... I mean, you're considerably younger than me. So I'm not, how much of a memory do you have about the before times? I'm talking about pre-95, before the web. Like, how much recollection do you have about life before the web?
I have a pretty good recollection of it, but I was really so young.
Mm-hmm.
So I was growing up. There wasn't, you didn't sit in front of the television. You were outside. You were riding a bike. You were, playing with your friends. And I think I was probably 9 or 10 when we got our first computer. And even then, it wasn't the computer that you see today. It was like the game was like the Oregon Trail, okay? That was like what you did on it. And it was... you had to type in individual commands.
Mm-hmm.
The dial-up was like the dial tone,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't really spend a whole lot of time on it. So it wasn't... My experience before was very elementary. So I don't know that I can say, as an adult, I have always had technology, computers, cell phones, things of that nature.
Okay, well, the reason I bring it up is because I am of the belief that the concept of truth started to significantly change once the web was here. Once this interconnectivity started to happen, and especially exacerbated in 09 or 08 when social media started this thing now. Like, truth today means, I think, much different than what it did before the web. Meaning that whether or not it was actually reality, if we tuned into the news in 90 and saw something, we had like 4 or 5 options, and we, for the most part, believed what we saw and heard from authority. We took it as gospel generally,
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And society had an order to it because of that, to a certain degree, or it contributed to the order of society.
No doubt.
And where I think we are today is that we believe we have an option whether to believe or not. Like, there's 2 realities, what we choose to believe and what we dismiss. And both of them are maneuverable and right. We just choose the one we feel most comfortable with.
Oh, yeah, and everything. There's no doubt.
And it's too easy to say, how do we get there? It's, we can say, the web or whatever, but how is it possible for us to rationalize in our head that there are multiple truths in society? And I think that's where we are. We accept it.
Yeah.
And then we accept that they're both out there. We just pick the one that makes us feel better. and we go with it.
So I think if you look at different things, like, is it raining outside? Okay. I can visualize it. I can see it in front of me. Okay. But when it comes to something that we don't experience personally, it then makes it something that we have to make a personal decision about. Is this true? So what do we base that on? We base it on our core beliefs, or we base it on people who are like-minded. So all of these people are in my social group, so I am going to trust them that they believe these things, and I'm aligned with them, so this must be true.
How did we get there? Like that is so...
Well, I think we always have, though. Look at politics, okay? So you believe certain things, and you're aligned with that social group. So you're a Republican or a Democrat, right? So here in the Pittsburgh area, when I was growing up, I grew up in an Italian social group, and they're Democrats. Why are they Democrats? So they have different beliefs that align with the Democratic Party. So if you grew up Italian, you had to be a Democrat. And that's just the way that it was. And I don't know how it is across the country, because I don't search that online, or, you know, the individual demographics of it. But I believe that many things that we believe as our truth, or we believe is truth, are driven by that. It depends on what your social group is made up of and what your core beliefs are.
Okay. It's a tough one for me to wrap my head around, because what you started off your answer with, I'm not entirely sure there aren't a certain segment of population that don't even believe that the reality they're seeing is real. Meaning, if you and I were to look up at the sky on a sunny day and I said the sky was blue, you probably would say the sky, I see a blue sky too. But I believe there's a certain portion of society who don't really take that for face value. They go, well, I think it's actually probably green, or it's probably this. And then they'll try to explain to you and convince you that they're right. Although the obvious answer, and I say this because I see a lot of things in society that people are getting behind that are very illogical. That it nothing offends me, but it rubs in a way that doesn't make any logical sense to me. And it's a logical, assumed truth that has been around for centuries, but no longer is an assumed truth with everyone. It's kind of now arbitrary. And I find it insane, but I also find it fascinating that that's where we are now. Does any of that make sense?
It does. I think that I look at it from maybe, so you can't believe that these people could possibly believe these things. Like, there's no way. Like, it doesn't make any sense to you.
I think they could believe it. I just don't know how they believe it. They obviously believe it because they're putting on a show. Could be true too, but I mean, they're okay. I'll say it. Let's see. The need for tampons in a boy's bathroom.
Okay, I just saw a TikTok on this. I think it was TikTok. It had to be. It was so ridiculous. The argument was so ridiculous. It really was.
But that's a reality for some folks. They believe that.
So we're trying to make people feel comfortable, though. We're trying to meet them and say, you're transitioning, or you've made a decision in your life, and this is what you feel that you need when you don't, or this is what you need because you have transitioned and you still have the biology of a woman. So, so in doing that, we're appeasing people in that certain group. It doesn't, like, I don't care what they do in bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't. Like, if you want to go ahead and put tampons on a shelf in a bathroom, I could care less. Do I think it's weird? Yeah, I think it's really weird. Like, am I confused as to how it's 2025 and we're having this conversation as grown adults, like functioning members of society that, have full-time jobs and are raising children. Yes, I think it's ridiculous. But there are people that believe that. Mm-hmm. They do.
That's my point.
And they're passionate about it. What happened? Like, I can't get behind the why and the what happened. Mm-hmm. I want to know what in society, and I think it's interesting because if you look back, if you look at, say, Rome, before Rome fell, and it's one of the most brought up, discussed mm-hmm. transitions in a society, mm-hmm. you will hear that this same exact situation occurred.
The genderless thing?
Correct. To the point where, apparently it was a lot crazier than even we're at a point that we're at right now.
I read that as well.
And then everything reset. But it has something to do with the transition of society as a whole and humanity, that it starts at a point and you work through this natural progression and you get to the debauchery and then everything explodes and then you reset back to, factory settings and then you start all over again. Except for next time we're going to do it in space.
If Musk gets his way, probably.
When you think about it, okay, so let's take it back even further though. So you say, how can someone possibly believe something? And I'm sorry. I'm going to say this. People believe that a man was nailed to a cross and died and rose 3 days later mm-hmm. from the dead. Mm-hmm. Now, if it happened today, what would people do? It's immense. Look at it's more than the United States. It's global. Mm-hmm. The number of people who believe this, mm-hmm. it's a miracle. Okay? Mm-hmm. And we sit here and we look at ourselves and we ask ourselves, how could somebody possibly want to put tampons in the men's bathroom? There are people who believe a man rose 3 days after being dead. Mm-hmm. So it's not that out there.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of...
people are going to hate me for that one.
Well, we're just having a conversation. Anytime you talk about religion, people they get their panties in a bunch.
Yeah.
But there's so many fables, and I use fable because it's the only word that comes to mind for, stories.
Yeah.
There's just so many stories littered through history, as far as we can tell, what's been passed down, that are fantastical. Oh, Not just that story, but every religion's got one. The Hindus have it. You can name every major religious belief. It's got all these elements of fantastical events. And sometimes I think they're put in there to teach a lesson. Sometimes who knows why they were passed down.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a belief structure with a lot of humans that buy into the story and find some kind of something inside them resonates with it, and it affects their whole being. We call it religion in some areas. Some areas call it cults. Some areas call it literature. I don't know. But
I think if something is in line with your moral compass, right, mm-hmm. and your morals as a person, and mm-hmm. you look at them and you say, I'm okay with this, then you're accepting of it, and that can be a truth. And if those things don't match up, and you view them and say, no, that's just not right, mm-hmm. then for you, that can't be a truth.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So in the original presentation and question, mm-hmm. can it be both?
Yeah.
It can, but it depends on the individual.
So it's subjective then?
It is. It depends on your own experience. It depends on my experience.
So,
And how we're raised.
it's an interesting response. It's interesting. I didn't see that, but yeah, it's a great. That's a great example. Yeah. Now that I look at it, it kind of validates some of the bizarre stuff now, because there's so many other institutionalized or broadly accepted belief structures people have that are just as fantastical.
Yeah. Well, okay, so take it back to the, transgenderism, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was being raised, it wasn't something that was introduced to children at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
It was always some hippie raising their kid, let him have long hair, he's going to think he's a girl. Do you know what I mean? So when I was being raised and you were a girl who was into sports, you were a tomboy, and that was very frowned upon.
Right.
Or
was it though? I mean, completely.
I don't know that it was completely, but
in the Italian community, maybe
certain sports are acceptable, but others are not. I used to love football. That was like, I always wanted to go on the weekends and go play football with the boys. And my father was like, there is no way you are going to play football with the boys. He was just not having it. So, and I remember as a teenager and being rebellious. And I was like, I'm going to go out, for the football team. That's what I want to do. I want to play football. And then it was seen as, we have these gender roles, and that's the way that you raise your children. Okay. Boys do this and girls do this. Mm-hmm. And then it became much more accepting, okay, for us to, women are empowered, women can do anything boys can do. And I think that really started the movement. Mm-hmm. In that we created very masculine women, right? I
can't argue that.
Yeah, I
can't argue that.
And I'm a supporter of it. Like, I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong, but you have to know who you are as a woman if you're going to stand in that role. But I think that what ended up happening is as strong, independent women, we, and I say we because I'm a mother who has raised children, have not required my sons to be raised in that strong masculine mindset, right? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but men used to beat their sons, right? Mm-hmm. This was a form of discipline. Mm-hmm. And then, you go through this where it's no longer acceptable. You can't do that, okay? But the reason why men were masculine was because you were raised in a certain way and you were told that these were your responsibilities.
Correct.
And then we moved away from all of that. So you have women who are masculine, you have men that are feminine, and then you have these men who would prefer to live this feminine lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. I was born to be a woman. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's who I am. I don't feel like a man. Well, why don't you feel?
Good point. So they've convinced themselves of that based upon the social conditioning.
Yes, I believe that's so.
Okay.
I think that if you now, I'm not saying that there's not the one-off and that
sure.
you didn't, because there are definitely men and women who transitioned 40 years ago, mm-hmm. and even historically speaking,
yes.
especially in American Indian tribes,
yes.
there were definitely individuals who were viewed as transgender in some respect. But now, because we've created there's no norm anymore, you can be whatever you want to be.
Is that good? Tough question.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how it impacts you. I think if you're a child that's raised in that environment and it puts you in harm's way and you have to live a life that's more difficult because of how you're viewed, I think that I don't think that's good. And I think that as a society, we have tried to pivot to make it safer for individuals who find themselves in that situation. And that the result is where we're at today. Instead of creating a safer environment, though, we have created a subculture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have the gender norms that are extremely strong. And then you have the kind of semi, which we're very accepting of it. And then you have this group that is completely now off on the outskirts of society that have formed their own social group and are now demanding that they be treated in a specific way. I just think it's interesting. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's wrong. I think that it's created a very interesting scenario for everyone involved.
It has. It has. It's to me, it tugs on this question, and that is, how far do we change the process of society for small bits of society? Do you see what I mean? It's like, how much of an influence does every group in our culture have to change societies? Because I really believe that just take that, and it goes against everything in my being to label people, but for the sake of discussion, I'm talking about groups of people.
Yeah.
How far should 99 point whatever percent of the population bend by force, conform to what that sliver of population is demanding because they're the loudest or the most, they're pushing the most vitriol or whatever their method of megaphone is.
Yeah.
And it isn't just this issue. It can be all kinds of issues from all different groups of people. Like, how far does the norm get shamed into conforming? Because I think part of the tactic is to shame the majority of citizens to conform. I think we saw that. I think we saw that
I don't know that
politically.
it's shame. I don't think it's shame.
So
I think I think it's money.
Okay.
And the reason why I think it's money is if you look at the rights of this social group, okay, and whether or not they are able to receive social services and who those social services are then supplied by and who's paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the United States pays for certain social services if you fall into that group.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to support this group because they're then protected, and then you can funnel money into whatever services that group needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that. I think that aspect of it is wrong in the way that it's being handled. And the reason why is because if I decided that I wanted to have plastic surgery tomorrow, I have to pay for it myself. Okay? But if someone else decides that they want to have a gender reaffirming surgery, it can be covered depending on what diagnosis you have received and where you reside. So for me, while I think that we should be able to provide specific services to those people, I don't think that you should be denied services based upon your affiliation or, being included in a certain group. But I do think that you then should be responsible for that. I shouldn't be responsible for that. I shouldn't have to support that because as a straight independent woman, I don't have that ability. I'm not afforded that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
So I think money has a something to do with it.
So take a step back for even a broader view. Do you think there's any validity to the idea that we seem to be forced, or we're trying to be forced to conform sometimes to people's whims?
I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. Like, that's the way I look at it. Like, and neither do you.
I mean, societal. I'm not.
Well, because I care what people think. Like, that's the way that I look at it. I think that if, as a society, when things are shoveled out, okay, this is what you're supposed to believe. So we now have television shows that support that, and we all know somebody. And yes, I think that there is some sort of pressure for everyone to kind of get on board, okay? Like, if you don't save the puppies, then you're a bad person, right? But you are the only person that gets to make that decision.
Where have we lost that idea?
Because no one has a spine anymore. You care. You care what someone else thinks of you as a person. Because if you don't believe what they believe, then you're a bad person.
And that goes to why we find so much groupthink within our society today.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of it. But I think everyone has their own personal beliefs, okay? I think that they feel one way or another. They may not openly share whatever that is, because you view it and say, what is the repercussion of me sharing my own perspective?
Oh, most definitely.
It is so liberating, though, to be able to stand in your own space and say, this is what I believe. And if you want to know why, that's fine, I'll tell you. But I don't need anyone or anything to agree with me. I don't.
Right. Okay, so I try to operate that way completely. And what happens is for me, especially on social media, is I got an interesting sense of humor that I have no delusions that appeals to everybody. I don't. But if I find something funny, I may or may not share it because I find it funny. It's not, and where the misconception is, and see if you can grab this for me. It's like they feel like I need that validated by them. Some folks, they feel like they must either invalidate, and when they disagree, they always have to come on and explain to me how they disagree. And then when I don't respond back, they think I'm ignoring them, or I don't want to engage them for whatever the reasons are.
You're afraid of them.
It could be.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah.
But it's like I have no interest because I, number one, probably don't care. I found it funny, and I know that there's a bunch of people with just stupid sense of humor like me. I know them because my circle base. I know them that they find shit funny too because I find some of their stuff funny. But it's not about debating whether it's funny or not, or whether it's offensive or not, or whether it's right or not or wrong enough. It's a attempted humor. And I need that in my life. I've got to have humor. I've got to laugh because it's just how I survive. And I would think most of us have an element of that. We need that.
Yeah.
But it's being conflated as to being some kind of joust.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
So I have an extremely small circle on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I think I have 330 or 340 friends on Facebook. I used to have thousands.
I remember. Yeah.
Thousands.
So how long did it take you to parse that down?
Oh God, it took me forever.
Yeah.
Literally they shut me down like 4 times as I deleted people. Okay? Like, let me tell you can only delete like 500 people at a time.
Yeah, someone else told me that too.
They limit you.
Yeah.
So because they think someone's taken over the account.
Right.
Which is fine. But so I probably had about 5,000.
Yeah, that's where I sit, like 6,200 or something.
Yeah. So what I found is I had a group of people who followed me that didn't really know me. Mm-hmm. Okay. And and I didn't know them.
That's most.
That's exactly it.
Come on.
So the question then becomes, why do they follow you? Why are you friends? And I found it was because on certain times of the year, I would receive hundreds of friend requests on a daily basis. Hundreds. It was crazy for like, I think it was probably like a 6-week period, just inundated with not just suggestions, but actual requests. So I was like, this is great. You know, my following's growing. This is amazing. The problem was these weren't people that were aligned with my belief system. These weren't people that knew me personally. There were a lot of fake accounts in there. And so when I would post something, if I posted a selfie, it would be, 1,000 gorgeous, you look amazing, all these, nice things. And then there would be the hate, right? So then you would start getting the hate. It would be like, oh, you think you're all this or, whatever. Or I would post something that happened in a day and you would get that fight aspect. People want to argue with you about a meme you post or something along those lines.
Welcome to my world.
So I dealt with it for probably 2 years and then made a fast exit and was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. The people on my social media, I'm not there for the likes. I'm there for the people that I know that are in my life that I have had actual experiences with. And those are my people. And now there's a very small number of people that I am connected to on Facebook that I don't know personally. I think maybe 5.
Wow.
Okay, that I haven't actually met in person. Instagram's a little bit different, but still, I keep the group small. I no longer feel that need. I've accomplished the things that I've accomplished in my life. It wasn't from people that I knew on social media.
Right.
Their contribution to my life was at a minimum.
Yeah.
So for me, that argument thing came from people that weren't close to me.
Oh, most definitely.
The people who know you well are probably going to pick up the phone and be like, hey, dumbass, what was that all about? Okay? They're not going to post it on your social media.
Do you know something I don't?
But I'm just saying. Like, the fact that somebody is going to trash you in front of every other person that you are connected to on social media is really them just trying to get.
It's a projection of themselves.
They want other people to validate the way that they think now. So, yeah, the whole posturing on social media. I remember, and this is the thing that got me. I had posted something on social media, I think it was Facebook, and someone had responded to the post, and it was like something about if you ever find me dead, just know that I ran my mouth until the end, or something like that. Okay, that was like the gist of the. And there was someone who had responded to that post. Now, they had been on a post earlier, like a couple of days earlier, where I had just kind of like ignored their comment.
Okay.
And it was a man in his late 50s, and he was mad because I wasn't responding to him. And
that's the thing, huh?
Yeah, it was awful. So he was jaded because I hadn't paid enough attention to him. So he then took that opportunity to start explaining why he believed that could be accurate.
Interesting.
And he went at me pretty hard, and I was like, who do you think you are? Like, why do I care what you think? But it also made me sit in the moment and say, is this the kind of communication that I even want to be having with people? Like, I don't care what they think anyway. So why am I going to go ahead and have to read it and view it on my page?
Bingo.
I'm not.
Bingo. That's it.
So I got rid of everybody. Took me days.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I've parsed mine a bit for all kinds of reasons, but it's an undertaking. Yeah, I don't mind having all these folks. I mean, I sold guitars on there. I'm a realtor, so I don't mind the connectivity. That doesn't bother me, or because I've gotten business out of it. Strangers I didn't. I get it. Yeah, 1,000,000%. But at the same time, it's a fascinating study that there is me back up. I would never go to someone's wall. I've never done this. I've never like found someone I didn't know or found even someone I knew, go on their wall and start an argument.
No.
I have never, I mean,
Yeah.
as God is my witness, it doesn't, not because I have a higher moral compass. It had nothing to do with that. It's not in me to think that would be an activity I want to engage in. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I just don't care.
I think
you know?
I think I have, but I think I did it for a specific reason.
Okay.
So on more than one occasion, there would be some rando that would like post on one of my friends' pages and like go in on them. And then it was like immediately, it was like, no, this don't fly. Like, we're not doing that. Like, there's no reason. And I'll do it like at the time I would do it publicly.
I understand.
I'm not doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm too old for all that.
Yeah. When social media was young, it was the Wild West.
Oh, goodness.
Right. And there was actually some fun with that, but just to, I got in trouble because a couple of years ago, I had to stop doing it. This was cruel. But every time somebody would start an overt fight with me on my wall, I used to just respond. And I couldn't say that. I couldn't copy and paste it because I had to keep, changing the words a little bit. But essentially, I would say, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I hope things get better for you. And when I would say that, it would inflame them. But it was funny as shit.
It's like, I hope you have the day you deserve. It's
Bingo,
my favorite.
same thing.
It's my favorite saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just inflames people because the reaction they want from you is like vitriol. They want the same vitriol back. Often.
Yeah, I think the control aspect of, they're trying to control your response.
Mm-hmm.
So they say something to incite you so that you become enraged and so that you come back at them. And what it is it's almost forced communication with that person.
Bingo.
I refuse to do it.
And that's their goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
that's
to
why
continue conversation or their first response.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it took me a while to figure that out, what their motivations were years ago. But there's just...
Well, now probably even more so. So you have more of a platform now, right? Mm-hmm. You're more recognizable.
I think.
Yeah. So if someone is going to seek you out and comment on that level, don't you think it's just because they want everyone who follows you to notice them?
Yeah, it's a leverage thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to pick a fight with you. We want you to engage so that everyone on your page knows they exist.
Here's a funny one for you. First off, this is what's been amazing for me that is so misunderstood. I have said for got to be close to a decade now, the most powerful tool that I learned about on social media, but especially Facebook, is the block feature. I block indiscriminately people that I like, but I just don't want to have their crap. I mean, they could be fantastic people, but online they're just caustic. I block people because it's so liberating. I can tell you it's amazing because if you do it right, they literally disappear from your life because you only see a couple people every day or every week, really. And once you eliminate someone on the social media, it takes you back before the internet where you saw a person once a year.
Yeah, they don't exist anymore.
They cease to exist. And people, you say it like that, and some people get wigged out. But the reality is, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. If used correctly, don't hesitate blocking people. If they're causing you any kind of emotional distress, just wipe them out.
So I don't block anyone.
Oh my God.
I don't block anyone.
You don't know what you're missing.
Well, this is why.
It's fabulous.
So you can unfollow people, right? So they're still on your friends list.
Not good enough.
Well, this is why. They still get updates on your life.
Yeah, it's a good revenge thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
But you don't have to see them at all.
But they're there though.
Yeah.
They still can send you a private message. You know?
I guess they could.
If you block them, you get. I mean, it's like
it is nothing. That's like gone. Like you.
It's like poof, they're gone. Like it's like an alien came down and zapped them and took them. It's beautiful. it's just beautiful. Like
I think it would be great if aliens came down and took people. That would be.
I'm hoping it happens.
Wouldn't that be nice? Think about it. Like I have a list. Like, here's my top 10. I hope they make it to space.
Abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
I hope they make it to space.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there with them, but
Like,
I hope
I
they
don't want
get
anything
to space.
like awful to happen to them,
No.
but I hope they make it to space.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Maybe not block them though.
So you don't believe in blocking?
No, I might unfriend
Have you tried
them. I might. Yeah. So I did probably, I don't know,
And the fuckers,
10 years ago.
don't even know immediately. It's beautiful.
Well,
They'll
that's it.
find out eventually.
So maybe maybe 10 years ago I would like block people, but I don't think I've done it. I probably haven't done that for like, I don't know. It's been a while.
It's pretty
At least
good,
a
though.
couple years.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. That my circle's so small I don't need to.
I know.
Like if I'm blocking the people who were closest to me, I have a problem.
Yeah. And it's like, I think sometimes people, I want to block that person. Like they're trying to be vindictive. Don't do it to punish somebody else. That doesn't work that way. You do it for your own benefit. You
Yeah.
don't do it as a weapon towards somebody else. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't accomplish what you're ultimately trying to do if you're using it as a weapon.
Well, I think those are people who don't see the value in their own peace, right? They're so focused on punishing those around them.
Correct.
And for me, I'm all about this peaceful, serene environment.
Now, is that age? Can that only be, not only, is that a general symptom of just growth and learning?
I think so. I think as a young person, I was hell on wheels. I was definitely chaotic. And I think
That's a good word to use.
Yeah. That's putting it lightly.
In a way, is that
Okay.
is that the beauty of youth, though?
It is. Yeah. Yep. There was no control. There were no stops. It was,
Right,
full force. And
right.
and that was really early, and because I had children young and was raising kids then, and I was really focused on my kids. But I think the focus now and the reason why is because my focus is me. How do I focus on my own happiness? How do I grow? How do I focus on learning? And those are the things that are important to me. And because those are the things that are important, I don't care anymore.
Right.
Like, why do I care if someone else knows that I'm upset with them or, no longer has access to me? They no longer have access to me because you're now outside of the circle, right?
Sure.
So I can unfriend someone. I don't need to block you. But that piece of it, like the internal peace that you're able to achieve. Yeah, it's definitely learned. It's come from growth and, experience.
Why do you think that so many people seek turbulence? Or do they? Do you think that some people operate better? Like when you see people that are shit starters, even if it's virtual, it doesn't really speak to their bravery in reality, but let's just say it's virtual. Like you just constantly see online shit starters. To me, it's almost like they're seeking out that turbulence. And I wonder if it's an addiction. I wonder if it's if that's where they find their peace in some sordid way. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I see it as pathetic.
I think generally you're right.
I think
but
that
why do
you're
they do
so
it? They do
miserable
it
in
though.
life. You're so miserable in life that you have to pick a fight with someone online that you don't even know. Or maybe it's that you are so passionate in your belief and you need everyone to
Know it?
to know it, to appreciate your view, right? To understand it. So you're going to get on someone's page and stomp your feet and act like a 2-year-old. I don't know. I think it's the most ridiculous thing ever. I think they want to be noticed in some respects. You want people to notice you.
I think there's some of that for sure. I think that's pretty obvious, but I also think too that there's another method, another tactic, and that's the old passive aggressiveness. And I also think that the other one is you go on someone's wall and you'll indirectly shame them by saying that, oh, you're just so disappointed in them, or the famous line, oh, you're better than that. Because I get that all the time. Oh, I'm so disappointed. You're better than that, Eric.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. This happens all the time.
My response would be, am I? Am I though?
They obviously don't know me, because what you see in that meme, that's me.
Well,
I like to laugh.
Yeah. I don't think, I think at that point they don't want to be seen as the overly aggressive, or they know how you'll take it if they are overly aggressive with you. So being passive about it allows them to kind of get their piece in.
Well, they're all guessing, because I will not engage. If they here's what will happen. If they were to go personal with me and say something that was uncomfortable to have my personal business put out there, or they attack one of my family or my friends, I just block and delete the comment and like it didn't exist. But if it's passive aggressiveness, or it's I have to remind myself, because naturally you get emotional, but I have to remind myself that I do have a healthy degree, and I've worked on it. I've crafted my indifference, my chosen indifference in certain circumstances. And one of them is I will not engage in a back and forth, especially with people I don't know that well, online. I won't do it. It's just my position. You're on my wall. Live with it, or don't. I really don't care. If you're disappointed, great.
Yeah.
It's not my concern. Right?
No. Why should you care?
Right.
I look at it and say, no one is going to control my emotional response to anything.
Correct.
Especially on social media.
Correct.
Because it shows that I'm not in control.
Bingo.
That doesn't work for me.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Well, you give up control at that moment.
Yeah, it's just never happening. I don't think there's very few scenarios where that might happen, and they probably all involve my children. Do you know what I mean? I'll probably lose my shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but outside of that, no. Social media, I still cannot fathom why people will go back. You'll see it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What does it accomplish? You want someone to get to the bottom of that thread and be like, oh, you're right.
No one changes their mind on social media. I'm sure 10,000 people, one person might have. Who knows? But it's such an infinitesimally small, potentially, amount of people that would change their mind. If anything, it just enrages people and gets them more dug in. If you're looking for common ground and getting people to open their mind to look at other options, but you don't go about it in a terse way. You just don't do it. That's not the way to communicate.
Now, I also think it's funny that people are going to get all up in arms over things like memes, right? Or like general posts, okay? Like a lot of times they're so
crazy,
generalist, or it's just something that's truly meant to be humorous.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to get all worked up about it. And it's like, what on earth would you do if this was something earth-shattering?
It's a window. Yeah, right. Their response is a real window into who they are.
Oh, yeah.
Their current mental framework. It's a window.
Yeah, that's why they make the comment. You'll hear, you never know what someone is going through, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to grant grace. I think is the general approach to it.
Yeah, I don't have to do anything.
Well, and that right, you don't,
and I won't.
No. Right. I don't engage because but I no longer post things like that anymore.
Yeah, but I'd like to.
Which is fine. You just have
like
to recognize.
To laugh.
You have to recognize that might be something that you run up on.
I'm okay, and this is what I tell people. I don't look for agreement. I don't seek agreement or require agreement.
No.
Ever. I don't want to. And quite frankly, that's a rather boring way to live if you do, right? Wouldn't that be shitty anyways if you require agreement? I'm okay. And there's been plenty of times I've look, if I was always looking for agreement, why would I do this?
Right. Well, you welcome perspective.
I'm interested.
Yes.
but I don't want to be yelled at. Like if someone came in here and was disrespecting me or was being real antagonistic, I'm annoyed. Now I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I've never had that happen, knock on wood. But I'm saying to you,
what would you do?
I've often thought that. Yeah, I would put up with a lot. I would keep my mouth shut for a lot. I mean, I've sat across the table from a few people who went down directions that I vehemently disagreed with. And if left to my own emotions, I would have become more emotional, but I just dismissed it as like it's a view I just completely don't agree with, and I'm not going to. And I would steer the conversation and try to find common ground on something else. And they were taxing to get through. There were a couple interviews early on. It hasn't happened since probably 19 or 20, but there was a couple, not many, but no one attacked and no one got really argumentative. I know that some people were disappointed at the end of the podcasts because I didn't agree with them. And I found that amazing. Yeah.
I find that amazing.
Yeah.
I don't ever seek to have someone agree with me
Right.
in a conversation.
Right.
I would like for my perspective to be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But that's it.
Mm-hmm.
The having someone agree with me doesn't make me, I don't know, a more wise person.
It's not currency.
No. What do I get out of it?
It's not currency.
It's one of the reasons why I don't argue with people
Mm-hmm.
at all.
And that's a learned skill, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I state my position and explain it? Yes, but I'm not going to argue with you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to argue with someone about their perspective and them explaining that to me. It doesn't accomplish anything.
No, one of the real advantages for me doing this in terms of like learning is watching Rocco Cozza. In terms of the panel shows or the line of questioning and the method in which he delivers the question. And really it's the inflection of the voice and the calm nature.
Yeah.
It's just really good to see that because no matter how different he would feel on a subject, he was more interested in getting the other person to discuss with him what drives their belief structure, where they came to that understanding. He's looking for understanding. So he does not let the emotions, if he has any on that particular issue, remotely surface. And I've sat and watched this now, and I've learned that it's way more effective to simply ask calm questions and vet it all out.
Well, because you're after something. You're
understanding.
Well, information.
Well, that's the core of understanding, right?
Yeah. So we do it in sales. It's something that you do in the sales cycle. So when you meet people for the first time, a lot of times they're very defensive in those conversations. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to learn to ask questions in a way that allow you to gain more information than you would from a yes or no answer. Right?
Okay.
So you pose the question in a way that allows the answer to expand. And then mm-hmm. you ask for a little bit more information on that.
Mm-hmm.
So in those situations, it is very much how you ask a question. And I like how you said it matters the delivery. Okay, it's the tone of your voice. It's mm-hmm. the way that you phrase the question. Mm-hmm. I use it all the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I completely understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch that, and it's but it reaffirms my belief that so much of our discord in society is not based on facts. It's not based on an exchange of the real substance of the conversation. It purely is a reaction, an emotional reaction, which is not controlled by either. And with that emotional reaction, it's where all the hurt comes from. It's like we just can't either seek to understand, or we're just not interested in really understanding why the other side feels or believes the way they do. We're not interested. We just demand that they feel like us. And then when they don't, we get angry about it. You know, it's crazy.
Well, we don't really listen in conversations.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is what I found on this show. I found that some guests that have come on, great people, but they occasionally, not many, they would sit across from me. They purely listened to respond all the time. As a matter of fact, by the time I got the statement out, I wasn't even done saying the sentence. They're already like salivating to respond to it. They already have formulated in their head that they knew what I said. And Rocco's a master at this. He sees it with somebody and then he changes what he says so they look like a fool. Like he's saying, he's not done talking yet with the statement, and then he'll just change the statement. So they're already formulated, to say it. And when they open their mouth, it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't listen. It's because we don't listen to understand. We listen to respond.
Uh-huh. Yeah, do you find that true in life and business?
I think listening is a learned skill that not many people have. And from the sales side of it, the seller side of it, really people who succeed and excel and achieve greatness are really good listeners. And the people who are subpar and suck at it they're the people who get to a meeting with a prospect and regurgitate a sales presentation from slide 1 to slide 65 without taking a breath or asking a question. Mm-hmm. Taking the time to understand what it is that customer or potential customer is experiencing so that they can offer them the best, solution to whatever their problem is.
Do you think the overall root of that is they may have their own needs in front of the client's needs?
They want to sell. They have a quota.
I understand.
That's
They
it.
all do, right?
Right.
I mean,
so in sales, that's it though. So what we think is you're going to sit in front of me. I'm going to go through my product presentation, and you're automatically going to connect
they
that.
expect it.
Yeah, you're going to think, oh, this is great. It's exactly what I need. The problem is you're not connecting with the pain and the issues that your customer has. So if you take a minute and you ask the right questions, what are your goals? What are the challenges within these departments? How do you solve for them today? What's the problem within those things that you need to then seek an option, alternative, or new software, whatever it is that you're selling? And they'll give you the reasons why, and then you're able to present exactly how you solve for that to the point where they look at it and go, I can't live without this. Like, how quick can we, move through this process? So I think it comes with certain people are born with it. And I guess not really, but they're better at the whole listening aspect of it.
Sure.
So that they're willing to walk through that process. And other people have just never, they're more aggressive in their sales approach. Maybe they haven't refined it, or no one really explained it to them. They think they know it all. So they tend to be people who like to talk a lot to begin with, right? It's people who go into sales are typically very personable, right?
You would hope.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. I don't know. I'm in sales. I don't know if I'm very personable.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I think that the listening aspect is taught, right? And I think that this generation especially, or I'll say, like my son's ages, technology came to play where it started to be this fast delivery of information, right? So it's just delivery. You don't ever have to respond. The communication aspect of everything.
Sure.
So you are now in a situation where they're not used to the normal dynamic of conversation.
Okay.
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 And they may listen, but they don't know how, to respond. They don't know that you're supposed to pose a question in a certain way, or I find that many times, like, they don't listen at all. So you're sitting in front of somebody, but you're not really trying to understand. You're not trying to understand at all. You're just sitting there in front of them and listening to what it is that they have to say. So there isn't like that connect. And I think a lot of that comes from social media.
Yeah, let's go down that road for a second. So the difference, what I feel like from the before times, was that pre-95, we valued this, sitting down and talking. We didn't think it had value, but the norm was you met for coffee. You got in front of someone, or you got on the phone and you really talked to people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Hours.
That was the thing. So we found joy. Now, again, we didn't know other mediums for the most part, but we found joy in verbal communication, sometimes being physically present for that. I'm not sure that is valued much today overall in our society. The idea of being in the same room, I definitely don't think is. And I just saw an interesting stat. Did you know that Starbucks is closing a lot of their dining areas? Did you see that?
No,
the
I
idea of
didn't.
going to a coffee shop was a very late 80s, 90s thing. It became real popular.
Yeah.
And going in and getting the Starbucks and sitting there having a conversation is not valued. I'm guessing it's the younger generation from us.
Yeah.
Gen Z, I guess, is what they call it, Gen Z.
I think.
And whatever the next one is. But it's just different. And I see it in my son. I don't know if you see it in your kids too, but they're, it's a meme, but I can tell you, I was at a gathering of young people 8-9 years ago, all on their phones, in the same room, talking with each other on their phone, but like nothing going on, no eye contact, no verbal communication. Like it's astounding to watch. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Is it sad? People say, "Oh, it's sad." Well, it's their reality. I don't know how sad it is. It's just different from what we dealt with.
Yeah. So I think my oldest son is probably lives his life in that way, with the exception of he's involved in band, so it requires you to be in the same room. But I remember during COVID, like the kids would all get on Zoom or whatever. I think House Party was a thing then. It was like an app, and that's how they would hang out. It's virtually, because everyone was social distancing. So when we came out of that, there was still some aspect of you still need to kind of be like in your own space, or, no one wanted to do large groups. So they still didn't have a whole lot of interaction like together. So I think that forced them into this, well, we don't really need to be in the same space together, right? You just spent all this time, or you didn't have to be. So what's the big deal?
Okay.
Now, my younger son had a really great friend group in middle school, in high school, and now that he's graduated and doing his own thing, he still has that same friend group. Mm-hmm. Twice a week, they're in Oakland, or they're downtown, or they're doing something together. They're going to the movies. Or
that's very cool.
It is very cool. It's very cool, and you see the relationships that they build because they do all these things together, and it's very refreshing, because when we think about it, we say, oh, it's this generation, and it's not the entire generation. It really isn't. But I think that it takes a certain personality, right? So you have people who aren't afraid to stand out, who no longer they don't really care that they're included in whatever the overall social group is. Maybe they have a warped sense of humor, you know what I mean? But instead of, does he have a social group online? Yes, he definitely does. And he communicates with those people, and they play video games, and, he spends time with them on there. But he has a group of friends that have experiences together on a regular basis, and it's in person. It's not virtual.
I love that.
So they they find different chicken restaurants that they go to, and they've now found what their favorites are, and they'll go twice a month.
Yeah.
And, and that's what they do.
So do you think they're finding this like in pockets, like would you say that's a break against, or a rub against the idea that they just don't want to be in the same room, or they won't. I'm trying to understand.
Oh, these kids have cookouts.
Yeah, so
okay?
they get
they have
it.
Bonfires.
So they get it. Yeah.
They're.
So is that generation finally pushing back against all this virtual stuff?
Yeah, I think so. But it's about the experience, right? So the experience is no longer. He's no longer fulfilled completely by an online experience.
Okay.
So he and his friend group. And they have started to expand. Like it's a group of people who are definitely growing. So they'll go do things, and it's people maybe he works with,
sure.
and it's part of their friend group, and it's they plan out these things ahead of time, and they go on these excursions to places they've never been before,
right.
and it's extremely exciting to see, because it is out of the norm. But if you look at social media, so if you look at Instagram, and you look at some of the around the same age group, probably I would say 19 to maybe 21, somewhere around there. So what these kids are doing is it's almost like they're discovering everything that's out there, right? So you have people who are finding like the natural waterfalls, okay? And they've now made it their goal to go visit as many of them as they can. And they have 4 or 5 different friends that they plan these trips with. And what we're finding is yes, there's this large social group that would prefer to spend, their time online in whatever reality they spend it in. But now there's pockets within that group that see the value in that, the personal relationships that you're able to build in person. Right? Now they're not going to, a book club, but at least they're experiencing the real world.
For sure.
With other people.
Right. And just the idea that they're feeling comfortable with other people in person. I think that's my biggest fear, was that we would have a next generation or a generation down the line here that did not value being with other humans.
Right. So, and the funny thing is, my youngest son was extremely socially awkward as a child.
Okay.
From a young age, to the point where if you picked on him or you looked at him too long, like he would not talk to people that I spent time with that he knew for 10 years.
Okay.
He wouldn't say a word. He could be in the same room with them. We could, participate in whatever the event or was, but he would not communicate with them. And it took until probably 6th grade. I mean, he was an extremely shy, introverted child. And I don't know what it was. It was like he found his people. That was what it was. It was in middle school. He found his people, and he just blossomed as a person. And that was when he would go out of his way and communicated differently. But that's what it was. It was that personal experience that he had with people that he had interests with and could communicate with and wasn't judged in a particular way. And I think social media is very much like that.
Okay.
Because you don't all find your people locally. What do you do if there's
Correct.
nobody? Okay, so
Correct.
he did that in real life, but there are people who can't find those people in close proximity, and I believe that in that respect,
Sure.
we then do that with social media.
Most definitely. I mean, I saw that in the 2000s when the initial message boards, guitar community was like, you could connect with people all over the world at the same likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't find that in Pittsburgh. Like, I like the specific type of guitar that I guarantee maybe 3 people in all of Allegheny
Right.
County even know what that is.
Yeah.
But I had an interest in it, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's these people that share the same passion for this thing.
Right.
And I think that's a benefit of the web. That's the part of the connectivity I think is just, it can't be, you can't even put a price on that, what that's probably done for society in general, especially people like that might not have been, they might have had social hangups. They found a way to connect that way,
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And I understand it because I've seen it from, a real life example.
Yeah. Do you think, let's talk about virtual reality versus actual reality. It seems to be a big popular topic on this show. I'm still convinced that there are folks that cannot, again, this probably sounds insane, but this is reality. At least we think it is.
Yeah,
Right?
wouldn't that be some shit?
Yeah. That's a whole nother, but I got some interesting guests that can go down that rabbit hole. But
Maybe we're just plugged into the Matrix.
I know. Like, I don't know what to believe anymore ultimately, but let's just assume for sake of discussion, this is reality, this table.
Okay.
And what we're doing is reality, this physical world. And then there's this virtual thing that we have on social media, or if you're a gamer, I'd even tie in like getting your news virtually and being in that web doing stuff. Mm-hmm. eBay, Poshmark, whatever, those shopping, Amazon.
Yeah.
It's all part of the thing, right? I believe more and more people are putting value on the online experience to the point where they have their own identity there. And they're starting to value that as much, if not more at times, than the identity they have out walking through society and maneuvering through society. Like, reality is not, quote unquote, valued as the heavyweight in the equation. It's now like on par with virtual, if not sometimes, less important than virtual, which is, to me as an older person, is horrifying because it's, I don't discount that virtual is a thing. I just don't know how you take the human experience and put it in there, because they're 2 different things to me. I mean, case in point, like the idea of like physical sexuality, the feeling of it, you can't get that in a virtual space. You have an avatar, it's doing its thing, and you can watch it do its thing. or you can or even anything like those little suits. You put the suit on, you do your thing. Yeah. But I mean, it's not the same, and I can't see any scenario where it would be the same.
No, I don't know. Isn't Elon Musk like putting chips in people's heads?
I guess
be. We could get to that point.
I know.
I think that in regards to physical reality, there are limitations individually. Okay. So if you want to be 6'5", 300 pounds of pure muscle, you don't ever have the ability to achieve that, right? So there are physical limitations. But virtually, you can be anything you want to be. All we have to do is type a code, pay a man. That's your virtual reality. If you want to be a dog, you can be a dog. Okay? You can be anything you want to be. Or, okay, take it a step further. You want to be a woman?
Ask Bruce Jenner.
That's what, but here's the thing. You don't have to have surgery. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is set up your avatar as a woman. And there is not a single person that would know any different in virtual reality.
That avatar is not you.
Yeah, but everyone in virtual reality knows that that's me. And that's where we all live.
But it's not you.
No, it's not. But you can be anything. You can project yourself as this is who I am. Do you think anyone's avatar is really going to look like them? If you built an avatar, would you build your avatar to spec?
That's a good question. That's a great question. I think I would be inclined to be pretty damn close.
Why?
Because I'm not dissatisfied with who I am.
Yeah, but that's not. So I get it, but that's not true for everyone.
I get that. I get that.
Maybe they want to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe they want wider hips or a larger ass. So you can just do it in virtual reality.
And that's supposed to be satisfying in some way. Because that's what you're assuming. It's satisfying in some way.
Yeah. So the funny part of virtual reality was whenever they announced the metaverse, right? So it was going to be this place that
That's still a thing.
I don't know. I don't know. I should ask ChatGPT. So
everything.
I ask it a lot. Okay. So the interesting part was they were going to launch the metaverse. It launched, right? You created your avatar and then you would buy things. The funny thing is you bought it with real money in the virtual world. And people were they were
sweaters.
buying Gucci bags and Prada shoes for thousands of dollars
For their avatar.
Yeah. Okay. If I can't carry it in my hand, I'm not spending money on it.
That's my whole point.
Like they're updating their skin so that they can project themselves in a certain way. So that people know that you're a rich person in the real world because you can afford a Gucci bag in the metaverse?
To me, it really seems... okay, let me back up. There's probably a viewpoint that it enables, like, I saw videos from Metaverse where there's a disabled person gets to go out and play volleyball. You know, I like, if people with limitations got to do things that they've always wanted to do, they can do it in the Metaverse. Mm-hmm. I guess, I'd like to dunk a basketball. Not ever going to happen. But in the Metaverse, I can go dunk a basketball. Cool. But I didn't dunk that basketball. I watched some person or thing look like me, maybe, that it has my name. I watched it dunk a basketball. I watched it. I visually saw it, and I heard it. But it's not me. And that's...
Virtually it is.
No. Virtually what? What's virtually mean?
The difference is you don't... Well, I guess you do share a consciousness. Oh, that's interesting. So...
Okay.
So the difference would be you're giving the avatar the direction. Mm-hmm. So it's a shared experience with the avatar. So technically you're sharing your consciousness. Could you imagine if when you logged into virtual reality, you didn't use a controller? You just thought it. And when you thought it, your avatar did it.
That's going to happen.
Exactly. So the difference between reality and virtual will no longer differ.
Mm. Wait a second. No longer differ.
Because you're no longer telling the avatar, right? You're no longer making a conscious decision to use a controller to control an avatar. What you're doing is you are thinking, I'm going to dunk this basketball. And then you dunk the basketball.
Okay, so I'll play along. I'll agree with you if it gets to the following point. And that would be that if I hardwire my brain into a thing, and if that thing also provides all the sensory that I currently have as a human, if it gets to the point, and I don't know how it's done, either
chip,
maybe, or maybe a suit or whatever, if it's to the point where it's the same sensory that I have now, then that would be a alternate me. I would get there. I'm controlling it. And I'm thinking, and it's doing things. It's acting like my body would, and I can still feel from what it's doing.
You can't tell the difference.
Then, yeah, okay. But I do you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be shared consciousness. That's truly the essence of virtual reality. Right now, we're just playing in the beginning stages of what this is. I think eventually we get to the point where virtual reality is where, look at movies like The Matrix. That's truly what it's about. It's about you're plugged in and you have the shared consciousness. They live every single day thinking that that's their reality. And then they pull the plug and they look around and they go, oh, that's not my reality.
Okay.
Reality is your physical body in one location, unmoved. Mm-hmm. So the difference right now is consciousness isn't shared between actual and virtual.
Right.
The physical reality is still us controlling with a controller, some form of language that is then typed out for a specific programming, something along those lines. I think where it comes to play, and it's going to be interesting, is I believe that AI will eventually play a big role in that. In the building of it, the supporting of it.
You don't think that's unnerving?
I think that if there comes a time where we as beings no longer have an understanding of where that line is, we no longer have free will. Think about it like that. So if I can't make a decision whether or not I'm going to be in the physical reality or the virtual reality, then I have a problem with it, right? Mm-hmm. I think that as long as I'm able to clearly visualize or understand where I'm at, and I'm the one making the decision, then I'm totally cool with it. The minute where you don't know and you're unaware, that's where the issue becomes for me.
So, well, basically what you're saying is you're in control.
Yeah.
Your physical being is in control of the virtual.
Yeah.
The moment it isn't anymore is when it's unsettling.
Yeah, I need to be like, okay, I'm out of here.
Right.
Yeah. I no longer want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a dog anymore. Yeah.
The furries are coming.
That's it, though. That's what no one gets. Think about that.
They're perfect for the virtual world.
They are. You could be anything you want. What was that other Tron? Do you remember the?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
That's the way that I see it. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. You can drive anything you want. You can, it really becomes the.
It sounds like make believe.
Where do you think it all started? Someone had an idea. They wrote a book. Then they made a movie. Then someone designed the technology because they thought, hey, that would be cool.
Do you get the feeling ever that there are people walking around that are living in their own make-believe?
You mean out of touch? What do you mean by make believe? Because I think that everyone has their own personal reality, but make believe. Oh, you mean like they present themselves as?
Yeah, that's part of it. I think make believe being that they're just. Let's talk about whims for a second.
Okay.
Because I think there's a portion of people that live their life based upon whims, meaning they act as if things are already a reality. And I understand that there's a big motivational concept to act as if, and it can work if utilized correctly. I also think that that kind of delusion, also not being put to a constructive use, can also create a very dysfunctional person in reality. And I think that we have a group of people out there like that. You don't think?
Like they're more important than they are?
Like that could be part of it.
Like they've achieved things they haven't achieved yet?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Like certain things are possible and they're not. I mean, I think that...
or things are when they're not. Things are a certain way when they're not.
I think if it's used as like a motivational thing, I think that it's like the fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, maybe there's some benefits to that. I don't believe in vision boards. I think that's a crock of shit. But I think that if... I think that there are definitely people who live in maybe their own delusional existence and don't truly recognize their situation, their reality. And because of that, they put on fronts and they pretend, to be something that they're not. And I think some people are really, really good at it. They've kind of mastered it. It's almost like a form of manipulation, maybe in a way. I don't think it's healthy.
Because there's generally always a crash.
Well, I think there's a crash, and I think that, there's so much more value to being authentic.
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
And honest with yourself first. And then the people around you. That doesn't mean you can't dream, I mean, I think that, so many people have achieved greatness because they have dreamt of something and knew that they could achieve it with an understanding that, it takes hard work. Like things aren't easy.
Yes, very much so.
And what about you? What do you think?
I think that people, well, when I was younger, I absolutely thought that if I act a certain way, the way that I want to be, then I would become that thing. And I think there was some validity to it. Like I used to obsess about the things I wanted to do. And it was amazing. Some of those things actually ended up happening for me. And I think it's because you move toward things that you think about, good or bad. We tend to move toward the things that we kind of like mentally obsess about. I also think that there is the difference between putting on a show. This is the only way I can phrase it. It's almost become an art form in our current society. Like I think people are even to the point where, forget the virtual part of it, just people believe that they may have multiple personas, like I'm this person in this environment, I'm this person in this environment, or I'm this person when I'm around these people, or I'm this person or that person. I think it's dangerous, and I think that's precipitated a lot today because of the materialism, that not everybody, but that some people feel really compelled, like it's almost a status currency, a status/currency. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I do think that people create their own identities, and they differ based upon where they find themselves situationally in life.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that if you look at influencers like in LA right now, so you can rent a house for an hour and film there, and you can rent a
car,
a Bugatti, and
a plane
for 15 minutes so that you can take pictures. So I think that there's a lot of that. I think there have been a couple influencers that have come out and said this isn't reality, right? This is the way that we do this. And I think that because of that, those people are lying, right? But they're lying because they're able to
monetize it.
Yes, right? There's a payoff there.
So is it a lie or is it just showmanship? I mean, if someone goes and acts and they're pretending to be someone else, is that a lie?
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. Like, it is a lie.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
But I think that, some people do it to be accepted, right? And because you wouldn't be able to interact with certain people. So, but I can look at myself and say, I have different groups of friends, okay? And with one group of friends, we have certain things in common, and our conversations revolve around certain subjects like hair extensions and lip filler, okay? And I have another group of friends who we may connect with maybe different experiences or music. And those two groups of people are probably never going to enter the same situation. They are, because I'm actually going to host an event where everyone is in the same place just for the fun of it.
That's the best ever.
Oh no, I plan on
mixing groups.
I'm doing it big.
Ever.
So
like George Costanza said on Seinfeld, "Worlds collide."
Yes, no, that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. So I wouldn't typically, but I'm going to do it. So it's going to encompass all generations, and it is going to be all of the people who I've connected with from the earliest moments of my life to my current life.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So the difference is if you walked into my closet and you saw from one end to the other the difference of, say, the wardrobe.
Sure.
So there's high-end designer and everything matches and it's extremely well put together. And then at the other end, there's the street gear and the Jordans. And you might look at it and say, I can't believe that she has both of these options available. Now, does that mean that I'm acting and that I'm not being true to who I am? Or does it mean that there are many facets to the person that I am?
Yeah.
And that I'm still truly authentically myself?
That's the key. In both of those groups you talked about, when you were with both of them, my guess is you're probably going to be the same person.
I am exactly the same person.
And that would be the only thing in the end that really matters, right?
I think so. But so from the way that you posed it, you think that there are people who enter those situations that are not authentically who they are.
Yes. Yes.
So
they feel they must be this different person. I mean, how many people do you know in your circle or your expanded circle over the years that literally become a different shade of themselves?
Yeah.
When they're in different scenarios.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it makes sense and it's appropriate. And other times you watch them do that and it's like, I don't even know that fucking version of him.
Right.
Or her. Right?
Yeah.
And how cool is that? Oh, maybe not cool at all. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think that, I think as long as no one's getting hurt or you're not misleading,
But they are misleading. If it's not their authentic self, right? Technically.
It might be misleading, but if there's no
harmless.
So if you want to fit in with a group, how are you going to do that, right? If you could never experience those people to begin with. Now, we have these people who, what was that lady's name who was pretending she was like a different race? That's crazy. Okay? What was her name? She was like the head of the.
Yeah. Oh God, Venzel or
I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I don't
but
remember her name either.
That to me is completely out of line. Like there's no reason anyone should do that. But you look at artists like Ariana Grande, okay, and you look at her as she came up through, and she was constantly being criticized for blackfishing, right? You look at Kim Kardashian, okay? Same exact thing. So are those people being their authentic, true selves? Okay, with an appreciation for the culture?
they can only answer that question.
So it's very telling with Ariana Grande, because if you looked at her then and you look at her now, she's an itty bitty skinny white girl. I mean, she's literally as white as they get. So was that her authentic true self then? Or is that her authentic true self now? Or is she just playing the part?
That's a great question. And only that person can say. Only the individual can really know.
Well, true. People can make assumptions. We can say, oh, well, there's no way.
And we do.
We do. I mean, look at Kim Kardashian. She parades around in braids and hair extensions and, tans and all these other things. And who is able to make those? We can make assumptions, but we don't truly know.
No, we don't know. No. And really, in reality, should we care?
No, I don't care.
That's what I mean. But as a public, why do we care?
People
because
care
we do.
Because they make money off of it, okay? And culturally speaking, okay. So that's why there's an outcry about that. So there's an outcry because they say that African American women in the industry don't have the ability to monetize. They don't have the opportunities. And here you have two white women who are using the Black experience in a way, and they're profiting off of it within this culture that they're not a part of. So that's the outcry. That's the blackfishing, and I understand that piece of it. When you look at Ariana Grande now, it's just kind of amusing because you're like, okay.
Yeah, that as described is definitely obviously happening.
Yeah, it does. So if you can make money off of it, then it's a problem. But if you're just running around town, do I really care? No.
Yeah, we just spend so much time worried about what other people are doing or how their actions are going to offend or affect somebody else, and it's almost like you can make an argument. Not the exact same argument, but in complete utter stupidity, a black guy playing guitar in a hard rock band, you can make an argument that why is he doing that?
No, you can't.
Is it because it's the opportunity?
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, it's different.
I think it's ridiculous, but I'm just saying.
I can see why the argument is different. The argument is different because of the opportunity.
Yeah, I get it.
The Kurt Cobain's, and it's now if he had started a reggae band and was successful at that, then would there have been an outcry?
I don't know.
Look at Mac Miller. Look at Eminem. Okay, that works.
Why? Why is Eminem okay, but Ariana Grande isn't?
I think it has to do with the way that they went about it, right? Ariana Grande wasn't brought into the culture.
Okay.
Eminem was. He was this kid that was, rapping faster than anybody had ever rapped. And it was like fire. And then you had the challenge, and hands down, he was so good. And they were like, this is it. He was accepted by the culture.
So you're saying skill, or particular skill, has the ability to validate it.
Yeah, he was welcomed. I mean, he destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't argue that.
There was no arguing
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Not only that, he had great support within the culture. It didn't mean he didn't get hate. He got hate.
Yeah.
People still hate him.
It's.
I mean, the man's putting out diss tracks, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. I just don't know why we spend so much time worried about what other people do. Like, what blows me away about this podcast is we got legs early on, but really got legs during the pandemic. And, you know, the moment I decided not to pursue people that I'm supposed to have on, but I started pursuing people that I wanted to have on because I wanted a conversation with them. The moment I started doing that, I got viewers.
Wait, who are you supposed to have on? How does that work?
Early on, like who was doing unique things in Pittsburgh, and I had this little advisory board that was
really?
like, oh yeah, they were sending me certain musicians, certain people in the art community. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those musicians and Mia Tarducci from that art community that was recommended to me turned out to be fantastic people for this podcast.
Yeah,
but I was seeking people that I assumed I was supposed to have on if I want to have a big Pittsburgh podcast. And then when I threw all that out, it was like, whoa. And what my point is, people were watching other people have conversations.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me. I'm thankful. I'm humbled, but at the same time, it perplexes me. It perplexes me. Only because do we just not do it enough in our own lives that we'd rather watch other people do it? Or is there a part of us that misses this activity for some of us of age? Like, what is it? Like, what is the differential that causes people to look? Why are podcasts so bloody popular? You know what I mean? The format.
Yeah. Well, I think that you need to be authentically you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what truly came out of it. When it wasn't you, it was an issue, right?
1,000,000%.
Right. I think that in regards to the format and the conversation, I think people were over the what was it, like reality television in some aspects, because there was this big push in it's scripted anyway. It's not really reality.
And generally it is.
Right. It's scripted. I mean, they're...
Oh, yeah. I'm well aware.
So why are we going to watch that, right? And I think that there also was an emphasis on just the overall human perspective, right? So it's the once removed from social media. So we're connected to these people, or there's this group of famous people that we have interest in, and now you get to sit in on a conversation that they're having with someone else.
Yeah.
And that is, I think that's where it all started.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think they started from the big names decided that they were going to start these, conversations and share whatever it was that they wanted to share.
That's how Rogan started, yeah.
Yeah. And then it kind of trickled down.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, if they can do it and share their perspective and people are interested, and you get to learn more about people listening to their conversations. And I think you learn a little bit about the different topics that are touched on, and you just get a better understanding. And I think that's the true value in it. it's not just that we're not having conversations. I think we're still having conversations. We're having them in a different format.
Sure.
Virtually.
Yeah.
I mean, I have conversations all day from 7 o'clock in the morning every day until, 7 o'clock at night every day when I'm at work, talking to different people. And it's always different, and it's always a different conversation. So that piece of it isn't so much missing. But to be able to experience and learn from another person or have a better understanding of something, that's where the value comes in.
Yeah, I'm right there with you too. And that's where there must be a craving for, well, I don't know how to put this. I have hope for humanity because we must care enough to learn. There must be a craving to learn out there by a lot of people. Whether it's someone's individual perspective, somebody, because it doesn't make any sense. But I've caught myself watching random people converse on YouTube, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm out there doing it, that I guess other people are too. And it's been just the best thing for me personally, but for me to watch happen, because it shows me that this cynical, opinion I have sometimes that we're all just interconnected on the web, and no one really cares anymore about the human condition. It's not really true.
I was going to say, that's not really your view, is it?
I was there at the beginning of the pandemic. I kind of was.
Yeah.
At the very beginning. Yeah, I thought so. But then the pandemic gave me hope in a weird way, because at least in the beginning, people seemed to really, cared about what people thought, and I think, quite frankly, the only reason anyone would watch a podcast is because they're genuinely interested in what one or both parties have to say.
Yeah.
It's the only reason. It's the only reason. They're usually sitting somewhere with a microphone in front of them and headphones, and they're talking. So for people to watch that or listen to it, they're genuinely dialed in.
Yeah.
And that is really heartening for me. You're not just like watching the news and it's not background noise,
Yeah. I think that there's been a big push too for self-development in listening
sure.
to podcasts. I mean,
For sure.
you hear it all the time. It's like, are you spending, 20 minutes every day listening to a podcast on, self-improvement or, I think that people generally want to be better, right?
I think so too.
And I think that the pandemic did kind of make everyone pause, because it was a moment that you didn't. I think there were definitely people that thought that this is the end, right? This is going to be the one that wipes everybody out. We're going to be like the dinosaurs, So there was definitely this fear aspect to it.
You think?
I mean, I didn't have it, but I know that there were a lot of people who felt like that. I was like, okay, if this is how we're going, I'm not working today. But I think that it caused pause. It made a lot of people reevaluate where they were at.
Okay.
So I think that in that there was a big jump in the communication, the conversations, how we communicated with each other. And I think that the value of the podcast then became, it wasn't scripted reality.
True.
It was a list of, we're going to touch on these things, and we're going to see what your perspective is, and I'm going to tell you what mine is. I mean, there are podcasts where these people are sitting at tables and reading people's emails and then commenting. It's like, am I the asshole?
Uh-huh.
And this is what happened.
Uh-huh.
That's their podcast.
Uh-huh.
I love them.
Yeah, I think there's a thirst for more, because it's like, so Trump goes on Rogan, and that...
I missed that one. Trump was on Rogan?
Trump was on Rogan like a week before the election.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was
it was
a game changer. Yeah, I think that's what won him the election. I think that
really.
Yeah, I definitely. I think that put him over the edge.
You think it was Rogan?
I think it was Rogan and Musk.
Put him back.
Yeah, and Musk Musk. And they both endorsed him like 2 days before the election, because Musk went on there right before him. But whatever. You saw people that thirsted for like more of the real story, because the news just doesn't have the time to give you, we're a soundbite generation. Like, we are the anti-soundbite. That used to be the slogan for this show. This show is the anti-soundbite. We're not going to just give you an opinion and then go on to something else. Why do you feel that way? Right. And that detail matters.
Yeah.
You know? Like, wouldn't you want to know why someone feels or believes something, not just that they do? We live in a society where we just take things on face value. Okay, that's what they believe, and they make a rash decision on them. Right? I mean, we think we know somebody based upon what we believe that they believe.
Do we
what
ever?
They say. No.
Do we ever really know people?
I don't know.
Do you?
No. I've learned in these years on this earth. No, you think at times you're deluded to believing that you do.
You think you do, but do you?
Yeah, they always surprise. It's a beautiful thing about humans.
Yeah. I always used to think that to myself. What makes people like really tick? Like, do you ever truly know another person?
Well, let me respond by this. Before you can answer that question, what if you ask them, do you really know yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Because if you really don't know yourself, how could you possibly get to know somebody else?
Oh, I don't know. I think if someone who didn't know themselves, right, met me, who is brutally authentic about who I am, don't you think they would know who I am while still not knowing who they are? Or do you think they would just have a warped perception because they don't truly know themselves?
That's good. That's good. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question. I guess it's possible to learn about someone else if you're undecided about who you are. But anyone who doesn't know themselves, and they actually would admit that, or anyone who doesn't have a healthy belief that they pretty much know themselves, that's a person that is more than likely not going to do a deep dive on anyone else.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Yeah, but you don't have to. Like, certain people are just...
They just are.
It's just on the surface.
And it's
like, there's no deep dive. That's just who that person is. That's what authenticity is all about, right? Like, you wear it like a jacket.
You hope that people are doing that. But it's like...
How can you tell if people are authentically themselves?
I don't think you can. You can't until you inquire about that person, either in person or behind the scenes, right?
I still don't think you ever really know. You don't think someone could
lie,
create a version of themselves that suits your perception?
Oh, most definitely. It happens in the dating world every day. And probably in the married world too, but
no, I mean, you hear these stories about like these people who get married and then 5 years later they find out like they're married to this person and this person lives 2 lives, has like 4 families.
Oh, absolutely, 1,000,000%. Yeah, but I think being authentic is a slippery slope. I think the only person that it really matters to is the individual.
Yeah.
Right?
That's accurate.
I don't know if it matters, but the only person that the only person that would actually know is the individual, if they are truly authentic or not,
Oh, I think you can sense it. I think there's a vibe. So I think that when people aren't being authentically themselves, I think that it comes off as like shifty or insecure. Do you know what I mean? I think there's something about it that's a tell.
Okay.
You can always tell when someone isn't being 100% authentically themselves. It has to do with like, so you'll have someone that will stand with a group of people and they'll tell a story. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they'll get to a certain part of the story and then all of a sudden it it's not that it doesn't make sense, but it just seems a little bit off, right?
Okay.
And that maybe they're sharing how, this other person participated in whatever this story was. So then you come to find out that person never even was part of whatever the situation was. And this person has been telling this story for so long that they no longer even remember that person isn't really involved in the story. And so it comes off as like this situation where this person isn't being authentically themselves. And you kind of like pick up on it.
Okay.
Obviously you can pick up on it because the other guy who isn't involved in the story is kind of like giving like this, yeah, like, oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that. So I think that, there are a lot of situations like that you can kind of read into, and I just think that there are tells.
Yeah, you have to be observant. You have to be someone that's dialed in, but again, I give people too much credit. Like you just described a situation where there's tells, but you have to be engaged and dialed in and sharp enough on the receiving end to pick it up. And I don't know that most of society is walking around engaged enough and dialed in enough and paying attention enough to catch it.
Yeah. It's because those people don't have enough trauma. Okay. I think that's it.
You think?
I think that's it. I think that people who, and I don't mean trauma trauma can be a lot of things. But I think that if you have experienced situations in your life where you have figured out that there are people who aren't authentic, right? Who have lied about who it is that they are at the core of a person, I think it makes you more perceptive to certain things.
Sure.
Like you then identify certain situations.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of people, though, that would recognize those situations. I think we've all been in a scenario where there's been someone who has told a story, and at the middle or the end of it, you've gone, what the hell was that?
At least once or twice a week.
Yeah. Eric, are you telling these stories? Is that it?
I don't know. Did you have fun?
I did. We always have a good time.
We do have a good time. Solve all the world's problems. See,
I don't know
and
about
we come in with this list of like potential topics that we kind of bounced around, and then we ended up taking on 2 more, and we only got to 3 out of the 7. But
I know, it's crazy.
we do this on a regular basis as long as you're game.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Panel shows.
There you go.
Other things going to happen, but I really appreciate it. Yeah, always very enlightening. And now my brain's like full. I have to process stuff for a couple of days.
You won't talk to anybody. Eric's just going to be sitting on the couch, okay?
Yeah.
Staring off into the abyss.
Could be.
Questioning.
Could be. Questioning reality now. Especially this reality thing. We're going to get into this.
Yeah. I look forward to it.
We'll get into it. All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
We're out. Salute.